Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Titash Prabhu, Shri Mataji, Pawan Prabhuji, all the devotees for joining today. Hare Krishna. So let's start with prayers. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminate Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, we'll continue with Pratana prayers, Shrivandan Ramyasthana. Anybody would like to sing today? Aarti Mataji, you want to try?
Okay, Prabhuji, I can try. I have not practiced, but I would like to try.
This is a prayer that I'm sure you have sung many times. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
वृंदावन राम्य स्थान दिव्य चिंतामणि धाम रतन मंदिर मनोहरा अप्रता कालिंदिनी रे राजहंस खेली करे ताहे शोभे कनक कमला तारमध्य हेमपीठ अस्तदाले वेश्यतीत अस्तदाले प्रधाननायिक तारमध्य रत्नसिंहासने बासिया छेन्दुए जाने श्यामा संगे सुंदरी राधिका ओ रूप लावण्य रासिया मिया परिचय खासी हास्य परिहास संभाषणे नरोत्तम दास कोय नित्य लीला सुख मोहे सदाई स्फुरुक मोरा मने वृंदावन राम्य स्थान दिव्य चिंतामणि धाम रतन मंदिर मनोहरा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा प्रभु जी सॉरी अगर कुछ गलत हो गया हो तो
That's very nice, Mataji. Yes, you want to read the translation also?
जी प्रभु जी Translation Beautiful Vrindavan is filled with Chintamani gems and many jewels, palaces, and temples. Many regal swans play in the waters of the Yamuna, and in those waters a splendid golden lotus flower grows. In the middle of that lotus is a golden place surrounded by 8 petals. On these 8 petals, the 8 principal gopis reside, and in the center of Lord Shamsundra and beautiful Srimati Radharani sit on a jewel throne. The great beauty of the divine couple and their charming joking and laughter continually showers nectar everywhere. Narottam Das says, I pray that this blissful, eternal, transcendental pastime of the divine couple may be always manifested in my heart. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण। श्री वृंदावन में स्थान प्रार्थना की जय। श्री नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर की जय। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। आरती माता जी की जय। Okay, thank you, Mataji, for wonderful singing and reading the translation. Yeah, so through the eyes of the Acharyas, we can see Vrindavan truly in its true essence. Just before they started, Prabhuji was, so thank you everybody who joined yesterday evening for the Kartik online program. So we have His Grace Anatama Prabhu, who is our ISKCON General Body Commissioner, GBC, as we call them. In short, he's visiting Cincinnati, and he'll be here on Sunday also. So he is the GBC for the whole of North American, like the kind of the Northeast region. So from New York all the way, down to some of the Midwest states. So he's visiting. He'll be going to Indianapolis after this today, and then he'll be back in Cincinnati on Sunday for the home program. So the reason I was mentioning him again is that just before the call started, he was here, he was doing the japa, and now he had another call. But he was looking at the pictures in our house, and he looked at one of the deities pictures, and he was asking where these deities are from, and then he was looking at all the details. There was background, Govardhan Hill, and just the way Radha Krishna are so beautiful. So we have that picture on our fridge for so many years, but I have never paid so much attention. but when a pure devotee looks at something, he sees all the details. So that is the vision. So similarly here, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, he being a pure devotee of the Lord, he is giving us direct darshan of the dham of the deities and how the deities are in Vrindavan. So that is the power of the vision, and that again by the mercy and compassion, the pure devotees they share. Another thing he was saying is compassion. See, he said before he came down for the japa, there was a call he had with New York, or he was responding to some communication from New York. And New York devotees, as we all know, this is the 60th year anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's arrival in America, and so they're doing a grand celebration. But then they were saying that we should do more philanthropic work, like we should do more charitable work. So Prabhuji was just saying that he said, yeah, yes, yeah, we are doing Food for Life, we are doing many other things. So that's good. But the biggest philanthropic work, biggest work that Srila Prabhupada taught us was to spread this holy name, spread this movement, because we are bringing people from the materialistic conditions of life. Like, so many people are transformed, their lives were transformed because they stopped meat eating, they stopped intoxication, they stopped gambling, right? All the illicit relationships. So all of these bad things that people were into, they all were stopped just because of Srila Prabhupada's mercy and compassion. So that is the biggest philanthropic work that Prabhupada taught us, and that is what we should give to people all over. So that is again, the compassion of a pure devotee. So anyways, I thought, we just before this call, we were having this discussion. So I thought I'll share that. Okay, let's continue with Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit, chapter 45, about book distribution. So we saw Prabhupada yesterday is again acknowledging all the hard work, all the wonderful work on the same theme of sharing this compassion, sharing this philanthropic work with the rest of the world. He wanted these books to be dropped in, because Maya is dropping all the bombs, governments. We see today also, after 60 years, Prabhupada's saying all these words, we see how the world is, what situation the world is today in. Every country is trying to make their own conditions safe. They're trying to rule over the rest of the world. Wars going on everywhere, bombs dropping, so many kids without homes, without parents, without shelter. So that is the situation. That is the war of Maya against the human civilization. But our war is against Maya, like Prabhupada taught us, by sharing this wonderful knowledge of bhakti with the larger masses, so that way everybody in the world can find eternal peace, not just temporary peace that everybody is looking for in this world. They're looking for eternal peace, but they're only getting temporary happiness, so-called happiness, which is just cessation of miseries for some brief moment. So, so again, sharing these books, he's encouraging all his disciples across Europe, America. There was people, their disciples are translating these books in German and French and Italian. So he's very, very happy. And this is giving Prabhupada a lot of energy. So let's continue with where we left off yesterday. So we saw that everybody in the beginning, devotee told me, "Where is Prabhupada? Do you know?" And then he said, "He is in his books." That mood was always there. We always felt that connection. Jagadhatri Devi Dasi. When I was distributing Prabhupada's books, I understood that that was the most pleasing thing I could do for him. I was helping him to fulfill his spiritual master's instructions, and so he was pleased, and he was even more pleased if I did it nicely. I always used to hear the story about how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would be happy if someone went out and distributed even one magazine, because it is actually the mood of Sankirtan, of going out and trying to give mercy to the conditioned souls. That counts. I always wanted to do welfare work. I like the feeling of doing something for people. So this is the summum bonum of helping people. You are helping them to go back to Godhead. So that was my motivation. And we automatically became purified by bringing other living entities to Krishna. Tripurari. I got inspired mostly by Prabhupada's greatness, how he was staunchly following his Guru Maharaj. It was his Guru Maharaj's order, and therefore he was doing it. I was never very scholarly or intelligent. I never thought that I had much brains or talent. I was never trained practically in any kind of skill, and I didn't have much education. I took it like that I was talking to the most fallen people and that I was the most fallen myself. I was just doing what Prabhupada wanted because he wanted. I would pray to Prabhupada to help me realize why he wanted book distribution. Then within I would get inspiration and it would come out in all of my talks about book distribution. That time that I stayed out at the airport when all the devotees went back with Prabhupada to the temple very much affected my whole spiritual life. I was very much intimately connected with Prabhupada, but my closest association with him was by following his instructions and getting down to work and not trying to enjoy the spiritual master, but serve him. Vrindavan Vilasini Devi Dasi. When Prabhupada gave the famous lecture in Los Angeles, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books, right then I wanted to take it up. Whenever he wrote to Rameshwar, it was really to Rameshwar and company. We all felt included. We are all eternal book distributors, a team together, and I wanted to be part of it. It was Lord Chaitanya's eternal Sankirtan party, and we all wanted to be part of it. It's going on in every planet, in every universe. I know it is pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. I would relate to book distribution like the battle of Kurukshetra. It's a battle, but Krishna is right there. It is like Kurukshetra number 2. I'm sure all book distributors feel like that. You feel like Krishna is right there and he is going to win. You just have to take shelter of him. You may not win this battle, but you win the overall war. So I always felt connected with Prabhupada because he's telling us in his books about the great devotees that we can take shelter of. It is all by his mercy. He is giving us these books and he is in these books. Surah. We were so much addicted to selling Prabhupada's books that we didn't want to do anything else. We would just go straight to the airport and start distributing and non-stop, except for maybe a 20-minute lunch break and maybe some reading for 20 minutes. Otherwise, non-stop until 7:30 or 8 at night. We really felt that Srila Prabhupada was protecting us. One time out at the airport, I was given a BBT newsletter. Maybe it was due to the exhaustion, or maybe it was due to some false sentimentality, or whatever. But I was reading Prabhupada's remarks about book distribution, and I became very moved. I was myself, I was by myself at the airport, and I just started crying because I thought of how devotees all over the world are so beautiful, so wonderful hearted, distributing books and working so hard. I was just really appreciating Prabhupada and the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada had said something in the newsletter about book distribution, and it just touched me. We were so absorbed in books, 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 that whenever Prabhupada would say anything about book distribution, we would go nuts. That meant it was our connection to Prabhupada. We weren't big guns who could sit at a meeting with Prabhupada or get personal attention so much. Maybe during some morning walks at the Mayapur festival, we got to sneak in with the sannyasis. But otherwise, our book distribution was our connection with Prabhupada. When he would mention something about book distribution, it would be our life and soul. Lavangalatika Devidasi. Having heard Srila Prabhupada speak and knowing that he was always reading from these books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that he was preaching that you have to distribute this knowledge to others, made it all very simple. That is, you just knew that this was Srila Prabhupada's desire. He was always telling us that he was giving us this knowledge, and that once you have this knowledge, you have to distribute it to others. Srila Prabhupada came to America to preach with his disciples. So we must do it because it is Prabhupada's desire. He spent so much time translating these books to be distributed. You just want to distribute to others, and you want people to have these books in their homes. Vrindavan, India, April 20th, 1975. Srila Prabhupada installed the deities for the grand opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Almost 1,000 disciples were present, and the governor of Uttar Pradesh was the guest of honor. After years of hard endeavor, the grand opening was a climactic triumph for Srila Prabhupada and his movement. While still standing at the altar after having offered the first arati to Krishna and Balaram, Prabhupada addressed the crowd explaining that this was an international temple where people from all over the world would come to worship and take shelter of Shri Shri Gauranitai, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, and Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Later that evening, Srila Prabhupada sat in his room with a few GBC men. The buttons on his kurta open because of the heat, his legs and bare feet extended under the low table. He relaxed, and his men sat close around him in the dim light of the desk lamp. It was a milestone, he said, but still they had to go forward, not merely savor their success. Many things were still required to make the temple and guest house operative. Srila Prabhupada was thinking beyond Vrindavan. This temple construction is so important, he said, that I am willing to spend many lakhs to open a temple like this. And yet, as important as it is, the book production is even more important. This was a significant reaffirmation of the priority of book production. Even while in the midst of this splendid temple opening, he was stressing that book production was more important. Srila Prabhupada seemed displeased, however, because for months his Chaitanya Charitamrita had been delayed by his Sanskrit editor. He said with a scowl that although he had finished the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it remained unpublished. He had also completed all 4 volumes of the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and was beginning the 5th, yet only 1 volume of the 4th canto had been published. One of the devotees present, not understanding Prabhupada's point, remarked that since Prabhupada was going next to Hawaii, he would be able to write there in peace and quiet. Prabhupada replied that he was not encouraged to write when his manuscripts were not being published. The BBT Press, after several years in New York, was about to relocate to Los Angeles, where Rameshwar would become the new BBT press supervisor. Rameshwar, unaware of the delay in publishing the Chaitanya Charitamrita manuscript, learned of it now in Vrindavan. He promised Prabhupada that he would immediately get the press set up in Los Angeles and begin producing Chaitanya Charitamrita. That Srila Prabhupada had completed the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita manuscript in 18 months during 1973 and 74 was a remarkable feat. In those same months, he had been intensely engaged in many affairs of management while constantly traveling. He had confronted major problems with leaders who had left their posts. He had personally attended to GBC duties in India, and he had dealt with other ISKCON managerial affairs. He had authorized many large BBT loans and had approved the expansion and development of ISKCON in all areas of the world, in addition to responding regularly to large volumes of mail, speaking daily to guests, and giving Bhagavatam lectures wherever he went. His only time for writing had been on arising at 1 in the morning, and he had persistently worked 2 or 3 hours each day. While Srila Prabhupada traveled from Vrindavan to Australia, Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh worked in Los Angeles to establish the new BBT offices. Prabhupada was still meditating on his completed Chaitanya Charitamrita manuscript, waiting to be published. From Australia, he wrote, "The Chaitanya Charitamrita is complete, 12 parts, and only 3 parts are published. And now the 5th canto is almost finished. So why these books are not being published? This is our first business. Immediately these pending books, 17 in total, must all be published. Why the delay? The US printer's binding is better than Dai Nippon. So some may be printed in the US and some in Japan, but the pending books must be finished in a very short time. When I see so many books pending, it does not encourage me to translate. When I see books printed, I become encouraged to write more and more. We can talk this over more in Hawaii. Now you and Hansaduta expedite the publishing work. This is your business. And push on the selling. You request Tripurari Maharaj in this connection along with others. Now Bhavananda Swami and Gargamuni Swami are there. They are also expert in pushing this on. By combined effort, publish as quickly as possible and immediately Chaitanya Charitamrit should be done. In Los Angeles, Rameshwar had only completed the lease arrangements for the new building for the press. The BBT artists had just arrived, and editors, proofreaders, and other production workers would soon be coming. The press had purchased a computer typesetter, and the devotees were being trained to use it. Carpenters knocked down walls to build a photo lab and darkroom. Additional plumbing had to be installed, and the entire press had to be set up within 1 month. Srila Prabhupada was coming in June, and everything would have to be ready and running. By the time Srila Prabhupada reached Hawaii in May, the press in Los Angeles was preparing for operation. Srila Prabhupada's secretary phoned Los Angeles often. Prabhupada is angry. He keeps talking about the unpublished books. You'd better be prepared when he arrives. Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh had investigated the necessities and the difficulties in printing the Chaitanya Charitamrita manuscript, which they concluded would come to 17 volumes. One of the main problems they discovered was the lack of an expert Bengali editor. Most of the Chaitanya Charitamrita was in Bengali. Although the BBD editors were experienced in Sanskrit, because they were not proficient in Bengali, the work was progressively slow. So also Srila Prabhupada wanted many paintings in his books, and the art department would need many months to meet his requests. Never before had the BBT lagged so far behind Srila Prabhupada. Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh, straining their brains to produce books quickly and efficiently, devised a stepped-up production schedule. By the old schedule, they could publish a book every 3 or 4 months, but on the new schedule, they decided they could produce a book a month. In that way, they would eventually catch up with Srila Prabhupada. Rameshwar was eager to present Prabhupada with his plan when he came to Los Angeles. More phone calls came from Prabhupada's secretary. Prabhupada had heard about the preparation of the press buildings, but he had also heard that his name had not been displayed on the front of the BBT building. He was always insistent to preserve ISKCON's disciplic succession, foreseeing that unless ISKCON stressed A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami as the founder Acharya, in the future, persons might claim their rights of ISKCON leadership or of ownership of ISKCON properties. In the rush for completing the buildings, the BBT managers had overlooked this important detail. June 20th, 1975. On arriving in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada received a joyous welcome. He was accompanied by leading sannyasis and GBC secretaries, including Kirtananda Swami, Vishnu Jana Swami, Brahmananda Swami, Tamal Krishna Goswami, and others. Later, sitting in his room, one of his favorites in all of ISKCON, he spoke only briefly about the backlog of unprinted books. He seemed mildly disturbed but said little. He was very pleased, however, to see the temple and the deities of Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadhish Ki Jai. In his short arrival speech, he had explained why he was so urgently pressing his disciples to produce his books. I have no personal qualification, he had said from the plushly upholstered Vyasasana. But I simply try to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So there was a private meeting, talking. Some of my important godbrothers also were there. It was in Radhakund. So Guru Maharaj was speaking to me that since we have got this Bagh Bazar marble temple, there has been so much dissension, and everyone thinking who will occupy this room or that room. I wish therefore to sell this temple and the marble and print some books. Yes, so I took up this from his mouth that he is very fond of books, and he told me personally, if you get some money, print books. Therefore, I am stressing on this point. Where is book? Where is book? So kindly help me. That is my request. Print as many books as possible in as many languages as possible and distribute throughout the whole world. Then the Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. The next morning, while walking on the Venice beach, Srila Prabhupada delivered an extraordinary ultimatum. Surrounded by devotees, he walked along, poking the sand softly with his cane. These 17 volumes, unpublished, he began, are a great problem for our movement. Yes, Prabhupada, Rameshwar responded, attentive and concerned. The other devotees also nodded, commiserating. Something must be done. Yes, Prabhupada continued. They must be published immediately. Yes, Prabhupada, Rameshwar replied obediently. So I think they can be printed in 2 months, Srila Prabhupada said conclusively. Rameshwar wasn't sure he had heard correctly. The press had only just opened. The artists didn't even have the lights in their room. 2 months was illogical, impossible. Now was the moment to tell Srila Prabhupada the plan for increased production. Rameshwar stepped closer. Srila Prabhupada, he began, we've been meeting about this, And now that the press is finally here and established, I think we can increase production 4 times. We think that now we can go from producing one book every 4 months to producing one of your books every month. Now both Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh walking together beside Srila Prabhupada with Tamal Krishna Goswami and Ramananda Swami walking on his other side. One book every month, Srila Prabhupada said, as if thinking out loud and considering it. That means over 1 year. It is not fast enough. The other devotees looked over at Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh, who glanced at each other. You have to do all the books in 2 months' time, Srila Prabhupada said again. They had clearly heard it this time, and the two managers were stunned in disbelief. Srila Prabhupada, Rameshwar said, I think that is impossible. Maybe we can go faster. Srila Prabhupada suddenly stopped walking. Planting his cane firmly in the sand, he turned to Rameshwar and said, without anger but very gravely, Impossible is a word found in the Fool's Dictionary. Suddenly, Rameshwar realized his spiritual life was on the line. To say impossible now would mean he had no faith in Krishna's representative, no faith in the power of God. He must throw away his material estimations and rational common sense. While Rameshwar and Radhavallabh stood speechless, Srila Prabhupada resumed walking, accompanied by the others. The two devotees hurried to catch up, but now everyone looked at them as if to say, Come on, stop doubting. You have to do it. Rameshwar asked Srila Prabhupada if he could discuss this with the other devotees at the press and then report back. Oh, yes, Prabhupada replied. Whatever is required. Rameshwar and Radhavallabh dropped back while Srila Prabhupada and the others continued down the beach. Srila Prabhupada returned to the temple and toured the new press facilities, a graphic arts building, and an editorial building. While walking outside on a second floor veranda, he noticed below a 2 foot strip of bare earth running between the two buildings. He seemed annoyed and said that they should plant grass there. In the layout room, a transparency of baby Krishna carrying Nanda Maharaj's shoes was on the light table, and Srila Prabhupada began laughing when he saw it. He approved of the new typesetting equipment, which worked faster than the previous equipment, and when the devotees demonstrated it for him, he remarked that in India he had dreamed of having such a press. In Radha Vallabh's office, Prabhupada sat in the production manager's chair and looked up at the large bulletin board that displayed all the steps in the production of a book. He laughed and said, For someone like me, this makes it even more complicated. Srila Prabhupada walked into every room in the two buildings and saw all the equipment. This modern technology was fine, he concluded, as long as they could use it to meet the deadline of 17 books in 2 months. Otherwise, their equipment was like the technology of the material scientists who tried to go to the moon useless. Okay, let's pause here today. Yeah, again, we see his vision is transcendental. He's, what we think can be accomplished. Prabhupada is showing that everything can be accomplished much faster by his estimates. They're thinking 12 books, 12 months. He's saying all the books in 17, 18 books in 2 months. But yeah. And again, we see why Prabhupada again and again is stressing this, the point of distributing books, publishing books and distributing books, because this was the direct instruction that he had received from his Guru Maharaj, and where all at the topmost place in spiritual world, which is considered, which as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, that Vaikuntha, so beyond Vaikuntha, Mathura, and beyond Mathura is Vrindavan, beyond Vrindavan is Shri Govardhan Dham, and beyond Shri Govardhan Dham is Radhakund, right? So that is our spiritual hierarchy. And right at that place, his Guru Maharaj had given him this instruction because he had seen that the temples were being misused or being misappropriated by disciples out of their greed and their hunger for power. Like Prabhuji was also explaining yesterday, in the material world, that is what the whole world is circling around, greed and power. And then where he comes from Washington, D.C., of course, he sees that day in and day out with all the political struggles. So we don't want that in the spiritual life, right? So that is where we have to differentiate between materialistic thought process and spiritualistic thought process. It's a complete different science, because this world is just a material, perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj, had seen that already at that time. And that's why he said more important than building temples is to print and publish these books. So that was a direct instruction, and that is why he says when Guru Maharaj, when a Guru gives an instruction, he also, if we are sincere, then he also gives the transcendental Shakti with which we can actually carry out that order. So we don't see that, but the Shakti is also given by the Guru when he gives an instruction. So Prabhupada was empowered by his Guru Maharaj to do this, and that is why he took this as his first and foremost North Star guiding instruction that he needed to fulfill beyond even opening temples. But even the temples that he opened, like he said, the 50-50 plan, first we publish these books, and out of the preaching and out of the publishing of these books, whatever we get, we use those 50% of those funds for publishing more books and 50% to construct temples. But even the temples, like here we saw, again, that's a very important instruction that Prabhupada is giving. We should always keep his name as the founder Acharya first and foremost. So that is why, like when we say, when we got those instructions, like I have shared in the past from Malati Mataji about anything that we send out, any public, any like flyers or any communication, these Prabhupada disciples were very particular, because this now we see why they are particular, because they had received this direct instruction from Srila Prabhupada that his name as the founder Acharya should always be there, front and center, so that it is very clear, and we never forget the fact that where this particular um, you know movement started. Of course, the movement has started all the way back from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the way going up to Sri Krishna. But as a founder Acharya, that was again the empowerment that he had received from his Guru Maharaj. So and also for us to not lose that focus on Srila Prabhupada and become misguided in this material world. Because, like Prabhupada said the other day, his disciples, when they were selling book in the airports, and he was receiving those reports in India, he thought that they were dressing up like hippies and they're going out again, right? But and then what did he say? He said, because the tendency is there, because that is how they had come from being hippies. So he didn't want the public to see them going back to becoming hippies and trying to distribute books. But when he learned that they were going out as gentlemen dressed up in American suits and pants, he approved that. He said, yes, we can go out as nice gentlemen, as ladies and gentlemen going out and distributing books. Absolutely no harm with that, as long as we have tilak, shikha, and our tulsi beads. So, but that tendency is what he was talking about. So similarly, because we have been conditioned in this material world, we always have that tendency to become greedy, to assert power, or to become powerful, right? So like he was giving the example yesterday also. It doesn't matter how many years we have been in the movement, our mood should always be of a servant, that we are here to serve, right? And when we have that mood and consciousness, then we will never get diverted. So that is what Prabhupada is teaching us again and again. And Prabhupada's sincere disciples, like His Grace Anuttama Prabhu, Malati Mataji, who was our ex-GBC, they are also teaching us through the examples that they learned from Srila Prabhupada. So that is our mood. We continue in their mood. Like he said, follow in the predecessor Acharya's footsteps. By distributing these books, we are doing that. So by following in their instructions, we are following in Srila Prabhupada's instructions indirectly, directly. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else would like to share anything from today's reading? Anything that touched your heart? Nobody? If somebody's speaking, you're on mute. If you're not speaking, then I'd encourage you to speak.
Yes, Prabhu, something which I really liked is that one thing which Prabhupada, I think, mentioned that it's important to win the war and not the battles, So I was just thinking about it that, sometimes in life, we have like material problems and we try to overthink about few things, and we are like, oh, let me answer this person and all that, things. So I always tell myself that, my real goal is to win the war and not these battles, So it's like we can always think like that a real goal is to win the war, which is to go back to Krishna, and not just be stuck in these battles. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that is why I think for us, it is, eh, eh, but we are in a good situation. I mean, of course, like, we are in the material world, so we understand, we are able to see, we are able to compare and contrast. That actually gives us more impetus to practice spiritual life more sincerely and seriously, because when we go out every day in the material world, at our jobs, at our work, at our whatever we are doing in our daily life, we see the struggles, we see people all around us, struggling, and we also feel that we are also struggling, so then that gives us the extra impetus that, yeah, these battles of daily life we see, and this particular and this beautiful process that Srila Prabhupada has given us will help us win the war at the end, right? So if we stay consistent every day, we practice like what Prabhupada has given us, practice sadhana bhakti, then, yeah, with that endeavor, with that practice, we may not become perfect, but at least, we will be on the path. As long as we stay on the path, like, Prabhuji was saying, we will reach the goal. The progress will always be there. It's a gradual progress. Sometimes it is not very evidently visible to our eyes, or we don't feel it, but it is always there. Prabhupada is always empowering if we continue to stay on the path. Like that example I was sharing, about the train compartment. We just have to stay connected. If the 8th compartment thinks, oh, I have 8 more compartments behind me, I can take them, right? But as long as the 8th compartment is connected with the 7th compartment before and to the engine eventually, then that engine is like Srila Prabhupada. As long as we are connected to the Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara, then we will be going back to Godhead. We will be on the track of going back to Godhead. But as long as even if we have all kind of imperfections, the compartment may be broken, the seats may be broken, the toilets may not be working, the fans may not be working. It doesn't matter the condition, that's imperfect. But still, as long as we are connected and we are making progress, we will go back. So that is what we see, especially. So we are in a good situation. Yeah, we are seeing these battles, and we can win the war eventually. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, anybody else would like to share anything?
Impossible word is not in the spiritual dictionary.
Yes, impossible. Now we also see, in this world, we see people are saying, impossible itself means I am possible, right? So impossible itself is saying I am possible. So yeah, Prabhupada's famous line, impossible is a word only in the fool's dictionary. So yes, so nothing is possible. So, and then that picture that I had shared from my work that I see every day, like I said, redefining the possible is an everyday thing, right? So again, these things give us inspiration that, yeah, as long as we are determined and we are doing day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, rinse and repeat, then redefining that impossible becomes possible. And it's very clear. Prabhupada taught us that we have to do this every day. And actually, he said even his books, he said every line, every shloka is important, every sentence is important, every word is important. One word can change a life. So like that, every day is important, every breath is important. So as much as possible, as long as we keep on practicing, we'll get nearer and nearer to our eventual goal.
Actually,
Yes,
Prabhuji, the impossible word includes I and am. Remove those two I and am, then it becomes possible.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If we think of egoistically, then we may have that I. The ahem is also there, right? The pride is there. So if you remove that also, then remove just I and then am. Yes, Adam, and just then possible is there. Yes. Thank you. Wonderful thoughts, wonderful reflections. Hari Hari Bol. Happy Ekadashi. Happy Rama Ekadashi to all of you. Hope everybody has a wonderful day, steeped in consciousness of Shri Radha Krishna and this beautiful month of Kartik. So With that, let's end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit ki jai. Shri Ekadashi Tithi ki jai. Kartik Mahamahotsav ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Ekadashi.